Hi everyone, welcome to the June video newsletter of Kination. June is LGBT Pride Month in the United States. LGBT Pride Month was started to commemorate the Stonewall riots which occurred in June of 1969. Now, the Stonewall riots weren't the first time that the LGBTQ+ people stood up against the police harassment. Before Stonewall, there were riots in Los Angeles and in San Francisco. But Stonewall is definitely the best known, and that has led to what is known as Pride today. Since the foundation of Pride, 3 presidents have declared June Pride Month: Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, and now most recently, Joe Biden. Right now, LGBTQ+ people are under attack in this country, and it's more important than ever that we as individuals and allies stand up and fight so that way love is love and hate has no place in this company and in this country. And now Quinn from Kaplan Toronto and Alexander from Kaplan Seattle will be speaking a little bit more about certain aspects of the LGBTQ+ identities and how better to relate to members of the community.
Hi everyone, happy Pride, happy June. This is such an exciting time of the year. Unfortunately, 2022 has seen a large onslaught of anti-transgender litigation, unlike anything we've previously seen. So today, Alex and I are going to talk about gender nonconforming, trans and non-binary gender identities, gender-neutral pronouns, and how to create space for all gender identities in our schools and offices. First, we are going to start with an introduction to some gender terminology. Cisgender, you probably have heard before, but it is a term to describe someone whose gender matches what they were assigned at birth. So for example, they were assigned female at birth and now know themselves to be a cis woman. Gender expression describes how someone presents themselves to the world. This can be done through clothing, hairstyle, and accessories. Gender expression does not define someone's sex or gender. For example, a cis man may like to wear nail polish, and a trans woman may hate wearing heels. Some people cannot express their gender in the way that they would like to due to a lack of safety. Therefore, it is important that we do not assume someone's gender based on their appearance. It is always important to check in with people on which pronouns they prefer. Transgender is probably another term you've heard before, but it is when one's gender identity is different from the one they were assigned at birth. So sometimes trans or transgender is used as an umbrella term for anyone who does not identify as cisgender. That said, not everyone uses this term to describe themselves, so when in doubt, always ask and make sure to honor someone's personal terms when it comes to their gender identity. The term two-spirit is used by many Indigenous communities. It can mean a person who walks between genders, carrying both qualities of women and men, or someone who identifies as a third gender, disconnected from social ideas of femininity and masculinity. This term is also used in Indigenous communities to describe anyone who identifies as LGBTQ+. When Europeans arrived in North America, they introduced homophobia and transphobia to many Indigenous nations, attempting to erase two-spirited people and their importance within their communities. Today, many Indigenous peoples are reclaiming their understanding and celebration of gender prior to European colonization. Non-binary. This term is used by people who do not identify as a man or a woman, or solely as one of those two genders. This term is often used as an umbrella term for identities that fall outside the male-female binary. Being non-binary means different things to different people, so this definition is purposely broad. Someone may identify as genderqueer if their gender identity is neither male nor female, between genders, or a combination of genders. This identity is often related to or in relation to the social construct of gender, gender stereotypes, and the gender binary system. For some, this term can carry similar meaning to the terms non-binary and trans. Next, we have gender fluid. Gender fluid may refer to a gender which changes regularly. Someone who identifies as gender fluid may fluctuate between genders or express multiple genders at the same time. Their gender may also vary between days or in response to different circumstances. The pronouns gender fluid folks use may also shift regularly. Our last term is intersex. Intersex is not a gender identity, but learning its definition can help us create a distinction between gender and sex. Intersex is an umbrella term that describes differences in sex characteristics that do not typically fit the binary idea of male or female. Sex characteristics can include genitalia, hormones, and chromosome patterns. The Human Rights Organization in Australia state that there are at least 40 different intersex variations. Some intersex traits may be visible at birth, while others may not appear until a person reaches puberty. In some cases, a person may never know that they are intersex. According to some estimates, up to 1.7% of the population has intersex traits. This is comparable with the number of people who have red hair. How can we make Kaplan more gender inclusive? Well, the first thing we can do is, when speaking to colleagues or students, try to avoid making assumptions about their gender or sexual orientation. Instead of asking about someone's wife or husband, try asking about their partner or spouse. When addressing a crowd, try not to say ladies and gentlemen. Instead, use gender-neutral terms such as folks, friends, or colleagues. The second thing we can do is make sure that all staff and students' documents are gender inclusive. If it is necessary to ask for someone's gender within our paperwork, make sure to include an option for trans and non-binary folks. The third is add pronouns to your email sign-off, your social media, and your Zoom name. Sharing your pronouns creates a safer space for trans and non-binary folks to share theirs. It also helps in acknowledging that gender cannot be assumed based on appearance. And number 4 is, within emails, try not to use she/he when referring to students. If you are unsure about their pronouns, just use the term they. So now, over to Alex.
Speaking of pronouns, we're an English school. Let's talk linguistics. Today's interest in gender-neutral pronouns mostly surrounds the liberation movement, spearheaded by transgender and gender non-conforming folks across the globe. But the search for a common pronoun started far before. 2 gender-neutral pronouns, thon, Thon, and here, Heer, even made it to the major dictionaries in the 18th century. English speakers have used more than 200 distinct gender-neutral pronouns across centuries, as far back as 1375 that we have found, and have been arguing in the political sphere for nearly as long. Grammarians first insisted that the use of a generic he would suffice. 19th century feminists argued that if he means she, then certainly they should be able to vote and own land. Men who made and enforced the law would insist the generic he includes women when it came to imposing penalties, but used the opposite logic when it came to asserting women's rights. In response, Susan B. Anthony had argued that if men are to represent women in voting, let them represent her in all. If a wife commits murder, let the husband be hung for it. End quote. This isn't only an English interest. In some languages, pronouns aren't gendered. In some languages, even nouns are gendered. Gender nonconforming Spanish speakers are championing the use of ella instead of él for he and ella for she. So instead of saying my friend as mi amigo for a man or mi amiga for a woman, you would say mi amigue. Él, he is amigo, ella, she is amiga, and ella is amigue. Now, while there's no one solution in English at the moment, most modern grammarians agree that the singular they is the way to go. The singular they is even older than the singular you, which replaced thou and thee in the 1600s and entered the Merriam-Webster dictionary specifically as a non-binary pronoun in 2019. So, if you don't know how someone likes to be referred to, we recommend using they. It's the most common. If you'd like to learn more, there's a whole book about it. I strongly recommend Dennis Barron's What's Your Pronoun? Beyond He and She. It's where I got all these fun stories from. And you wouldn't believe how exciting a whole book on one part of speech can be until you read it. Happy Pride Month, everyone.